Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard, getting into week 9. And after this week, season's going to be halfway over. So some revelations to be made. We're getting to see what direction we're actually heading here. It's bread and butter time. So before we get into it, Smokey, how are you doing and how are our standings?
Oh man, I'm doing good. I'm better than Lions fans at this point because I think they have come to the realization that their season is basically over. You might as well start building for the future, which I feel like they've been doing for the past how many seasons now. It may just never happen for them. They did put up a good fight against the Dolphins, though. I'll give them that. But as far as our predictions go, I made up a lot of ground on you this past week. I had 12 correct and you had 9 correct. So not only did I close the gap, I also took the lead by one prediction here. What do we have? The Commanders and Colts. You had the Colts. The Giants and Seahawks, which I actually picked the Seahawks there, and you picked the Giants.
For whatever reason.
Now, you did get me on the 49ers Rams, and there was one more that you got. Oh, I won the Falcons Panthers also. Raiders and Saints.
I picked the Falcons, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, you did. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was not the one. It was the Ravens Bucks. You picked the Bucks.
Yes. Yeah. That's
and the Raiders Saints. Yeah.
That I remember. Okay. That one was the worst one for sure. Getting shut out. That was bad. That was bad on my. So it deserved lost week there. But 12 points is really strong. Well, we'll have to make that up. Hopefully this week. Before that, let's get into the MVP power rankings as we do every week. You can vote on the channel content dashboard site thing community page. There's a poll out for the MVP power rankings after 8 weeks. If the season ends today, who's the NFL MVP? And for me, like spoiler that, it's getting closer. It's getting closer because we said 2 weeks ago, we said Josh Allen's leading by a considerable amount. And now him and Mahomes will have back-to-back bye weeks, respectively. And after that, we'll have a clear picture. Now, when Allen was on bye, Mahomes blew the roof off the 49ers, one of the best games he's ever had. Now Mahomes on bye, and Josh Allen won the game against Green Bay, but he didn't play at an MVP level in this particular game. He threw a couple picks, nothing super special. Again, Green Bay shot themselves in the foot with horrible defense, more so than Josh Allen actually taking over the game and winning it. So the gap to me has closed considerably. I still have Josh Allen at number 1, but it's close. It's effectively a tie at this point, and I'm expecting the vote to reflect it. I'm expecting more of the vote to shift to Mahomes. As before, it was 80 to 90% in favor of Josh Allen. I'm expecting that to be a bit closer this week. To me, still Allen, Mahomes, 1 and 2. 3 and 4 still the same as last week. Geno Smith and Lamar Jackson in those ranks. They both won their games. And then number 5, I have Tua Tagovailoa back in the mix, who was at number 1 for a long time, of course, until he missed a couple of games with the injury. But he's back in the top 5, replacing Joe Burrow, who the entire Bengals offense looked terrible against the Browns on Monday night. That was bad showing. So Burrow being relegated to the in the hunt category, though his individual stats are very good and he actually leads the league in passing yards. The record doesn't reflect it, and his week wasn't very good. Other than that, Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert as 2 of the candidates that I have that I'm considering to be in the hunt right now. What do you think?
It's pretty close, actually. We got Allen, Mahomes up there at the top, of course, and then followed up by a litany of guys like Geno, Hurts, and Lamar. And then off in the distance, Jones has actually dropped out of here. Daniel Jones is completely out at this point. He could possibly make his way back into a long shot candidate, but I doubt it at this point. That was a horrible game, and that offense still has a long way to go. There's no superstars there, but Tua and Cousins actually had a much better game this week, so it's still a definite long shot, but he did himself more of a favor than he had in the past couple of weeks, including a bye, which can't help that. But yeah, Tua and Cousins they're off in the distance trying to fight their way up there. But right now it's Allen and Mahomes. It's a runaway so far.
It really feels like that's the two guys that we're looking at for all intents and purposes there. I just want to bring up one name real quick because why not? 7th overall in passer rating at this point. Missed a couple of games, but some of the critics may want to hold their ears here as I say the name Jimmy Garoppolo. But he's had arguably the best game of his season for sure, maybe career, against the Rams on Sunday. That was an absolute clinic, and of course it's all about the Christian McCaffrey show, and he's the new shiny toy superstar in that offense, and I get it. He made history in his first start, but Garoppolo played fantastic. A passer rating of like 140 in that game. He played lights out, and if he keeps that up, maybe he'll be able to wiggle his way into the top 5. He probably won't end up in the conversation just because it's too much of a run heavy offense. And he doesn't amass those kind of stats, but hey, at the moment, gotta at least throw the name in the hat. But I'm very much on the Allen Mahomes train. I think if Tua can pick up, like if the rest of the season for Tua can look like his first 3 weeks, I think he'll rise through the ranks, and he'll end up at 3. I don't know if he can knock on the door to challenge those two guys and the front runners because he missed those games. He's lagging behind. But when he's playing well, first of all, the Dolphins are undefeated when Tua's playing the whole game. And when he is playing well, he's turning the roof off every time. They were getting blown out by the Lions, it looked like, and he came back. He came rumbling back. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill are on the... he has 2 receivers right now, 2 different pass catchers that have a chance to break some receiving records, which is completely ridiculous. That doesn't happen. Usually that's like the one guy. That's your Devontae Adams, your DeAndre Hopkins, surrounded by nothing. No talent, so they're the only option. That's not the case in the Miami offense. They have a lot of weapons. They do. If that offense is firing, they're absolutely deadly. So I want to leave that name in the hat as well. But to me, Allen Mahomes seems to be a good betting favorite against the rest of the field, for sure. Getting into week 9, we have a couple games here. The first one, this is maybe this is the biggest point spread of the entire season so far. The Eagles at the Texans on Thursday night.
Well, you would think. This is probably number 2 in almost everybody's power rankings right now, the Eagles, even though they are undefeated. But the Bills are just that much better. Everyone can see it, so you can't really put them above the Bills. But the Eagles are on fire right now. They are not slowing down anytime soon. This is the number 1 position in the best division in the NFL right now versus the rear of one of the worst, maybe arguably the worst division in the NFL, and the Texans. And there's not much bright spots there. Like I've said in the past, Dameon Pierce is a bright spot for the Texans, but there's not much. We saw Brandon Cooks get a little bit of work this week, which was much more than he has been doing all season. But, on the other hand, all those weapons out there. You got A.J. Brown catching 3 touchdowns in a game. He's trying to get up there with Hill and Waddle and such. And he's going to run it anytime. So I'm not going to waffle anymore. Eagles are going to win this one on the road.
Yeah, I totally agree. 14-point favorites, by the way. 2 entire touchdowns. That's like a college style betting line. This is not something that you see in the NFL much. Undefeated Eagles. Texans are probably the worst team in the league. Eagles win. No surprises there. Nothing else to discuss. Chargers at the Falcons.
Man, that was a nail biter right there against the Panthers. Now, some would say that it's not really a great thing to have pulled off a really close win over the Panthers, being as bad as the Panthers are. But I personally starting to believe that the Panthers are much improved, so which would lead me to believe that the Falcons are at least middle of the pack dangerous. Like, they can beat quite a few people. Now, the Chargers, coming off of their bye, you think they're going to be well rested at this point, and they had some bad games. Oh God, that game against the Broncos the other week was horrible. So I think this leads way for me to be a homer right here and pick Mariota to throw more than 20 times, hopefully, and we'll get the win at home.
See, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. Yeah. I think this is probably the game where I have to make up the point, and I'm coming here every week and I'm saying the Falcons are legitimate. You know, the Falcons are a real team. Don't underestimate Atlanta. Still the case, still very much the case. The way that they won the game from the Panthers' perspective was probably one of the all-time dumb moments I've ever seen. That is on par with Deshaun Jackson like throwing the ball away before he crosses the goal line on like a wide open touchdown pass. Getting that that taunting penalty when the extra point actually makes the difference is all-time stupid. And as great of a play as it was, that was ridiculous, and you got lucky as the Falcons there. You got lucky because that was over. If that doesn't happen, but I'm gonna trust Justin Herbert of being just the much better quarterback. I'm gonna trust a well-rested defense that should provide some trouble to Mariota. Taking the Chargers on the road. Dolphins at the Bears.
Man, don't look now, but Justin Fields is improving with each game. He is getting much better. He looking like he might be the next breakout here. Now, give it, they lost in pretty big fashion to the Cowboys, but Justin Fields is getting good throughout all of the losses they've had. He's actually improving every game. But this is the Dolphins. This is Tua. You've already mentioned it. You ran down. There's going to be a lot of Jalen Waddle. There's going to be a lot of Tyreek Hill. There's going to be some Raheem Mostert thrown in there. And Tua's maybe even run one in himself. He's capable of doing that. This shouldn't be much of a struggle. The Dolphins win on the road.
I do agree with that one as well. Chicago doesn't seem to really be getting it together, and they have indicated that they are in tank mode, trading away Roquan Smith, their best defensive player. He's out of the building. The opposite is true for Miami, who didn't actually. I don't even know if you've heard the news, because at the time of recording, this news just broke a few hours ago. Dolphins have traded for Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos, so that's bolstering the defense in a big way, and they're all in on making a playoff push this year, which, with the Bills being the front runners they're going to need every single win that they can get. So that's a good trade. And this is one of the wins that they have to get. That's mandatory on road to that playoff push. So Dolphins win at Chicago. And we're taking road teams all the way so far. Yeah. I am, at least. Panthers at the Bengals.
Oh, this will probably be one where you can get a home team out of it. The Panthers, like I said, they have improved. Have they got rid of Eddie Pinheiro yet? Because I feel like their team is better without Eddie Pinheiro. Speaking of which, he did that to the Bears a couple years ago. You know, that's how he lost that job in Chicago. And here he is doing it all over again. They had to be mad. DJ Moore looked like a superstar, but he should have never pulled the helmet off. Yeah. It is what it is. The Bengals look bad also. They took a hard loss on an island game to the Browns there. Fighting Nick Chubbs ran all over them. So if you were just to watch those last two games, you would say the Panthers might be better than the Bengals. But I'm thinking the Bengals being at home here is not an island game. They should get it back together. They should be able to score easily on the Panthers. That is still a dynamic offense. You don't have Jamar Chase, which may be a problem, but you still have great weapons out there. I will take the Bengals to win this one at home.
So a couple revelation about the Carolina Panthers, right? PJ Walker might be the best quarterback on the roster, which is an indictment more than it is a praise. And also, this organization's in shambles organizationally in terms of like the actual discipline. Head coach got fired. They're in complete chaos. There's no proper structure to it. Scoring the game-tying touchdown and then ripping your helmet off and forcing your kicker to actually turn an extra point into a 50-yard field goal to actually win the game is all-time dumb. It is. I don't understand. I don't get it. And DJ Moore, by the way, that's not a rookie. You're not a rookie anymore. Like, he's been established like a superstar in that offense for a few years at this point. Make that kind of play and then negate it with that. is unbelievable to me. The Bengals, don't have a lot of good things to say about them either, other than I can't really figure them out. You know, it seemed like at the start they started 0-2, started terrible, and we thought, wow, maybe last year was a fluke. And then they started winning games suddenly, and the offense started firing. Joe Burrow entered the MVP conversation, and they showed that the success from last year was not a fluke, and now they have this kind of dud against the lowly Cleveland Browns. Tough to figure out, kind of enigmatic. I still think they're in a better spot than the Rams because their offense is still at least somewhat functional. The Rams have, by some statistics, metrics, the worst offense in the league, which says something, with teams like the Broncos and the Bears around as well. But I'm going to take the Bengals in this one because I think they're just more talented, and the organization is better coached. They're in a better structure. And if you lose games like that, Carolina, in that kind of way, you know, bad teams find exotic ways to lose games, and you know this because the Falcons used to do this for a few years, when they would just find incredible ways to lose games that they should have never lost in a million years. Same for Carolina here. So I can't trust that kind of team. I'll take the Bengals at home. Packers at the Lions.
Man, I bet you're not ready for this one, but this happens to be a tank ball. Oh, man. I
what
know.
The Packers tanking for?
What'd you say?
What are the Packers tanking for? You going to pick a quarterback?
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them at this point. I mean, but you just signed Rodgers. And, you know, any team that Rodgers is on is never going to actually actively tank. So it's not officially a tank bowl. Now, the Lions, they're probably looking for a new coach at the end of this season, which is a sad story after all the hype coming out of Hard Knocks and whatnot. We thought they had a chance. The offense looked explosive, and it was in this past game until the Dolphins and Tua took over the game and finally put you away. And I feel like that's going to happen for the rest of the season. Now, you know, they had a couple of horrible games there, especially against the Patriots. The Packers, like I said, they're not going to actively tank as long as Aaron Rodgers is on the team. And yes, you technically don't need a new quarterback, but I wouldn't put it past them to work a deal out at the end of the season with someone to get rid of him and go with a rookie. But I will take the Packers on the road here.
I will agree with that. And the tank bowl take, I know it's funny to say that about such an established team. The thing is, the NFC is pretty bunched up. Like at the moment, 500 teams are making the playoffs. Yeah. And the other piece of news is this division, aside from the Vikings, kind of sucks. So the Packers are still playing the Dolphins, they're still playing the Bears, and guess what? They're winning those games. 2 wins and they're back at 500. The Packers have a road to the playoffs, a reasonable road to the playoffs, which is difficult to say for most teams that are 3-5 in most situations, but there's a pretty clear road ahead. Get the job done and they'll make the playoffs. It's somehow, because that's the way the NFC is looking this year. And okay, losing to the Bills is forgivable. Losing to the Lions is definitely not forgivable, which means that there's no way the Packers lose this game. I'm giving you a guarantee there's no way Packers lose. If they do, then then the playoffs are gone. Don't even think about it, but cannot lose at Detroit. And by the way, the Lions are also kind of in liquidation mode. It feels like they've already given up on the season, more or less, as much as Dan Campbell likes to talk about. We're close, but they're starting to fire coaches. They're trading their top players. T.J. Hawkinson is now gone. So the Lions are in tank mode. Packers are not in tank mode. So Packers to win at Detroit. Raiders at the Jaguars.
Well, what about this one? Tank ball. This is more of a tank ball, right?
This is a real tank ball.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one could have seen this one coming. I mean, you called an 8-8-1 season, but they're worse. The Raiders are worse than anyone could have expected them to be. They are the butt of that division, and that game last week was one of the worst offensive performances I have ever watched. I mean, they were as bad as the Lions versus the Patriots a couple weeks ago. The Saints just dominated them from the jump. And that's not saying much. That's an Andy Dalton-led team right there. Hey, you got blown out 24-0. I mean, I guess the only thing that a redeemable thing is maybe that it was in New Orleans, but you should be able to travel better than that and put up a fight against a broke down team like the Saints at this point. Gave them their third win while you took a 0 in that game. I'm so disappointed in the. You know what? I think the Jags are as bad as they are. Lawrence has had some really tough games. This should be a get right game. This should put Trevor Lawrence back into the trajectory that he needed to be in, that he was going in. He was doing well at the beginning of the season. This is the get right game. I'm going with the Jags to win this one at home.
This could be the get right game for both of these teams. Possibly. This is genuinely difficult to pick because both these teams are so prolific at losing games when they're not supposed to. But like you've mentioned, judging from just last week's performance, you have to go Jacksonville because the Jaguars at least showed life. They were on the verge of winning that game for most of the time in London. At the end, they choked it away. That's whatever. But the Raiders look dead in the water from kickoff, and that is rough. So I'm gonna go Jacksonville as well, and I'll agree with you there. Colts at the Patriots.
Well, this is a tough one considering the Colts. that was a horrible offensive performance. Also with Sam Ehlinger, maybe he's gonna pull it together. I mean, it's not like you were facing a great defense in the Commanders, but that was a horrible game. On the other side, you can't say much more for the Patriots in their win because they were facing the Jets. 22 points. I don't know. Most of these teams have put up much better offensive performances against the Jets this year. Even though the Jets were winning, I guess they gave them their loss. So that's a tick in the favor of the Patriots. I will take the Patriots at home to win this one.
So one personal matter I have to address, because I had a discussion under last week's video with a presumptive Jets fan and a long-time viewer of the channel. All the respect. I'm almost ashamed of how right I was with all the points that I made in that debate, and I think everyone who have read that thread will have to agree with that. I feel like I predicted the future there, so I have to give myself that shout out. While the Jets are a very strong team this year, better than anyone would have expected, this game went exactly the way that I expected it to go, because that's how it goes. And sometimes that argument, as stupid as it sounds, it carries weight. Yeah. Niners, Rams. It's just how it goes. It's 8 in a row. It's just how it goes. Patriots, Jets. It's just how it goes. Packers, Bears. You know the deal. So even with the records being what they were, that is why I picked the Patriots, and that is exactly what I envisioned would happen when I picked the Patriots. That being said, for this game, Colts are in shambles. They're falling apart. They're firing their offensive coordinator. They're cycling through quarterbacks. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm picking New England because they're at home and they're suddenly coming off of a strong in conference win. Their defense is phenomenal. Their special teams are phenomenal. And if Mac Jones turns off some of the critical errors, the offense will at least be solid. And that's what sort of the model to success has always been for New England. So they're pretty close to that, I think, and I'm going to take them to win. Bills at the Jets.
Yeah, speaking of the Jets, and I will say I also called that to happen on the same episode there. I just felt like it was the end of the run for both of those New York teams, and it just so happened that way. I mean, Giants walked into a buzzsaw also. But either way, the Bills are way better than the Jets at this point. I hate to say it. I like the Jets. I like the run that they were on, but there is no way in hell they're winning this one. The Bills are on fire. They are the best team. The Jets need a lot more work. Zach Wilson needs a lot more work. They are down Breece Hall now, which is not in their favor, and the Bills are firing on all cylinders. I'm taking the Bills on the road.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against Buffalo at the moment. Jets on a bit of a downswing coming off of this game. They were flying high at 5-3 now. People are ringing their alarm bells pretty early for the Jets, and they're saying they have a quarterback problem. Zach Wilson had a bad game. He did have a bad game, but he also is having the best season of his career so far. That, of course, doesn't say too much considering that he's in his second year. But he's playing fine. Give these guys a break. I know you want to tear Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, him, and Mac Jones. Do you want to tear him apart? I don't get the Mac Jones criticism, by the way. Like, people are acting like Mac Jones is a bust. He made the Pro Bowl in his rookie season. And now he's 4-4 with one of the most devoid of talent offenses in the entire league, with a defensive head coach and a system that makes it as hard as possible for him to be the focal point of the team because they're so focused on defense. How is that a bust? I don't. Do you like? If you're anything less than Justin Herbert in your rookie season, are you a bust now? If you don't break some kind of record, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Don't understand it. So pump the brakes on all of these guys, Zach Wilson included. Buffalo wins anyway, though. They're the better team. They are the best team, so can't be against them. Vikings at the Washington.
Dude, the Patriots fans are calling for Mac Jones to be replaced after him going to the Pro Bowl in his rookie season. They're screaming for Bailey Zappi. Now, I think that's a phenomenon that's going on because the fans think we can replicate this Tom Brady thing with a last-round QB pick here, and Bailey Zappi just has to fill that role somehow when he's probably, in all likelihood, not the man there. The fans just want it to be true so bad that they are screaming for Mac Jones to be out of there, when just last season they were screaming for Mac Jones to be put in. And it is what it is. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to work out for them. Vikings are on a roll. They are on fire. Kirk Cousins played much better in this game than he had the game past. Commanders pulled off the win there over the Colts, but the Colts are in shambles, like you said. So I don't put a lot of faith on that. Taylor Heineke was playing just well enough to win, probably not well enough to win against the Vikings here. So the Vikings will go on the road and put one over on the Commanders.
Yeah, can we even call it an upset win, what Washington did at this point? Because they're 4-4 right now. They're on a win streak, and Taylor Heineke's looking pretty good. Like, this is suddenly looking like a competent team. This is a team that is one lucky break away from a winning record, which if I told you that after 5 weeks, you'd have looked at me sideways. No, it is the Vikings, and the Vikings are what they are. They're arguably a top 5 team, definitively a top 10 team, with a prolific record, and they're en route to win the division because the Packers aren't keeping up. That being said, this is probably the most upset potentially game of this week. I'm gonna pick Minnesota. I'll pick the Vikings. I'll say that right from the start. But look out. This is the type of game that the Vikings lose. I'm just gonna say this is the type of game that they can very easily lose. Because the Commanders are coming in with the momentum. Of course, Minnesota also has momentum, but it's going to be in Washington. It's going to be Kirk Cousins, of course, going against his former team. This has the potential. This has the potential for upset, but I'll take Minnesota because the offense is just too many superstars. Too many superstars on the offense. They're hard to stop. They're really hard to stop. So taking the Vikings, but keep an eye on this one. This is I think the game to watch in this early block. This maybe and the Chargers Falcons are to me the two most interesting ones. Late window, we have the Seahawks at the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Seahawks are on fire at this point. That offense is humming on all cylinders, and as long as DK Metcalf is healthy, I don't see anything stopping them in the near future, much less the Cardinals. Now, we saw the Cardinals get their offense going after a probably run of 3 horrible weeks, but the last 2 weeks they have picked it up. They couldn't quite get over that hurdle as high as it is of the Vikings, and they went down. Seahawks, though, Geno, nobody saw this coming, that Geno was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. At some point, you got to start to wonder, could any quarterback be successful with the Seahawks? Was it ever Russell in the first place? Could we just take any backup and throw him on the Seahawks, and Pete Carroll can get this out of him? Either way, I don't really believe in the Cardinals. Man, it's kind of scary because it's in Phoenix, but I will stick with the Seahawks here to take this one on the road.
It is a scary game to pick. I do agree with that. And the odds makers agree with that, because this is basically a pick 'em. Cardinals are getting 2.5 points for being at home. Other than that, it's effectively a coin flip if you want to bet on it. And you would think that having the third MVP candidate on your roster, being the upset team of the season, you'd think Seattle should be favored here, especially because the Cardinals are underperforming so much, which seems to be a common theme, by the way, among in-season Hard Knocks teams, because remember last year was the Colts and they underperformed and missed the playoffs. This year the Cardinals are going to be on in-season Hard Knocks, which I cannot wait to watch. This game kind of stumps me. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what to do with this one, but I'm gonna pick Seattle. I'm gonna go with Seattle. I don't have a whole lot of faith in it. I could realistically pick either way, but I'm gonna go Seattle for the simple reason that their defense is progressing quickly. Their defense on paper, if you look at the season average, is not very good, but they've been getting better fast. They're very, very young, which is the thing that's going to cost this team if they actually get to crunch time, to the playoffs. The fact that this defense is so young will end up costing them more than likely. But I'm gonna say this one is Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins is back. It's some help, but I want to take Seattle. I'm taking Seattle, but this is tough. This one is the hardest game by far this week for me to pick. Sticking with Seattle because they've been winning. Rams at the Bucks.
Hey, I think this one is tough. What is it? Isn't this the NFC Championship game last year?
It's the divisional. Oh,
game. Divisional. Okay. But still, if I would have told you that these two teams were going to play again in the middle of next season, if I would have told you this last year during the playoffs, these two teams are going to play in the middle of next season, and there is going to be a combined 5 wins amongst them. Well, actually,
that's 6, right?
6 wins. Okay. But yeah, 3-4 for the Rams and 3-5 for the Bucks. No one would have believed me if I would have said that. They both have losing records right now. That makes this tough because they're both on losing streaks. Their offenses are not going. If Cooper Kupp's out, I have no faith in the Rams at all. Skrowanek, I can't say his name, but
Skrowanek.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think he's going to go out there and fill that Cooper Kupp role. And Robinson hasn't been working out the past 2 seasons before he even got to the Rams. I bet they wish they had Beckham back at this point. But the Bucks, Tom Brady is done. I don't know if he's really just hit that old age wall that some quarterbacks hit, or is it his divorce? Is he just not in the game right now? He has those weapons out there. He is just not utilizing them. So I'm going to say this is a toss-up and say these teams are even, and I'm just going to give it to the home team here and go with the Bucks because they're at home.
It is tough. It is definitely tough. And my philosophy to make this game not tough for me to pick coming into it was, this is my own classic invention of picking whatever you don't, which means I'm going Rams apparently.
All right.
And that, of course, really rides on the hope that Cooper Kupp is going to be available to play. Which, by the way, when we're talking about DJ Moore and all-time stupid decisions at the end of games, putting the one and only superstar of your offense out there when you're down by 3 scores with a minute left, and to throw a screen to him in a bunch of traffic and 5 people jump on him. That has to be some kind of all-time stupid decision as well. I don't get that. I just don't understand it. Call your losses. You're not winning the game. Why put the ball in his hands to begin with in that moment? Just save him for the future games. And assuming that he'll be back, they'll have a chance. If he's not back, it's looking bleak because I don't know if you've noticed, but like around week 3, they kind of just stopped running the ball like entirely. They're just not running it. I remember in week 1, we were joking about how Cam Akers and Allen Robinson are completely non-existent.
Yeah.
And then they kind of tried it a bit, and then they kind of just stopped running, and they went back to it, like Cooper Kupp being literally the entire offense. Like all of the offense is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Everything else has been disappointing. So he has to be out there for there to be a chance, and it's a daunting pick in a sense because Tampa Bay still, with their own offensive struggles, have a top 5 defense. But I'm sticking to my philosophy of picking what you don't, so therefore I'm trying to defend the Rams somehow. I guess my best argument for the Rams is not for the Rams, it's against the Bucks because they're also horrible. So that's what I'm going with. The Bucks are bad, therefore the Rams win. I guess there you go.
Yeah.
Titans at the Chiefs.
Well, 2 teams that are not bad right now, I'll tell you that. Malik Willis got a win. What did he throw the ball, like 6 times the entire game?
Something like that.
Malik was bad. Like, I watched this game. Malik was really bad. But they got the win. I mean, you got Derrick Henry out there doing Derrick Henry things and pulling off Superman feats and such. Now, that'll get you the win in situations like that against the Texans. That's not going to get you the win against the Chiefs because the Chiefs are going to hang 45 points on you. I don't know if Tannehill's going to be back or not, which I bet they're hoping that. But either way, even if he is, you're not putting over 45 points on the Chiefs here. I don't know. Maybe they have a better shot with Tannehill than Malik Willis, but I have to take the Chiefs. They're at home. They're going to kill them.
There are 3 games this week that have a spread of over 10 points, that must be some like historical highlight or something, because that barely ever happens in the NFL. 2 of those to me make a lot of sense. The first is the Eagles over the Texans. That makes a lot of sense. The other one is actually this one, the Chiefs over the Titans, because for all the reasons you've laid out, the Chiefs are a much superior team and they're playing at home. The one that doesn't make so much sense to me is the Bills over the Jets by 13 points. Not because the Bills aren't great, because the Jets are not bottom feeders like that. That one to me is a bit much. But as for this one, I totally agree with the 12.5 points they're given to Kansas City. They've been looking phenomenal before going into the bye week, and they just are coming off of a bye week, meaning they should be well rested. They don't have a lot of injury concerns, and this offense is going to go running on all cylinders. I don't think Titans can stick with it, though. I will say in recent memory, the Chiefs have had the most trouble with teams that can consistently run the ball, kind of take the air out of it, and take time off the clock, keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline for a long time and keep him cold. That's usually the way to beat the Chiefs. That's more often than not, that's how it happens. But I don't see it. Who's going to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee? No idea. Kansas City is a better team in every facet except for the running game, maybe. But they should win. I'm going to take them at home. And then we have the Ravens at the Saints on Monday night.
Man, considering recent moves and the trade deadline here, this is going to be a defensive battle, in my opinion. You're going to see Taysom Hill out there probably running for a touchdown here and there, along with Andy Dalton trying to chunk some up to no-name receivers. But the Ravens have now acquired Roquan Smith. So this defense just got much better. They're replacing some of the old pieces that have been gone from there. Their offense has been firing. Firing against the Bucks. They were able to actually run the ball a little bit, considering usually you can't run on the Bucks. So that's what I would be afraid of in this game against the Saints, because they have a wonderful run defense. But if you can do it to the Bucks, you can move the ball on the Saints. I can't put the no names over the proven commodities here. I will take the Ravens on the road.
I will agree with you on that as well. I think the Saints, coming off of this hyped up win, which is less their win and more really just the Raiders' loss. To me, honestly, the Ravens have a much more promising track record. Beat the Bucks. They kept up, really went toe to toe with the full force Dolphins with Tua earlier on in the season. I think the Ravens have a lot better track record there in terms of being competent as a team, and with Lamar Jackson, they're always in general more dangerous. And I kind of refuse to pick an Andy Dalton team over a Lamar Jackson team if there's not in 2022, if there's not very compelling reason to do so. Beating the Raiders to me is not compelling enough of a reason to do it, so I'm going with Baltimore. I'm saying the Ravens win. We do have a lot of agreements this week, don't we? What were like 2 or 3 games that we differed on?
It looks like it may just be 2. The Chargers, Falcons, the Rams, and Bucks.
That's it.
Looks like it. Yeah.
I better win at least one of them.
Yeah.
Preferably both. We have 6 teams on bye actually. Browns, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, and Niners all on bye.
I hate
Do you hate it?
Oh god, I hate
for fantasy.
Yes, I hate these big bye weeks. Man, why can't we just have 4 teams per week and get them all out of the way? Why do we gotta have 2 on some week and then 6 the next week? Especially when
I don't understand either.
It's big names right here. Like I know that we had some huge names out last week, but come on, when you got the 49ers, the Steelers, the Giants, the Broncos, the Cowboys, and the Browns all out in 1 week, I mean, you got no Nick Chubb, you got no Saquon Barkley, you got no CeeDee Lamb, you got who else we got? No Deebo Samuel, no Brandon Ayuk,
McCaffrey.
Yeah, no McCaffrey now. Yeah. Dude, this is horrible for fantasy this week.
Yep. I'm just noticing, looking at this list, like half of all Super Bowls in the history of the NFL are on bye week right now.
It looks like it, huh? Considering
and then there's also the Browns, of course.
Yeah, exactly. They should have thrown the Patriots in there instead of the Browns.
Yes. Oh, if the Patriots were in, that would have actually been probably about the majority of all Super Bowls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or pretty close to it. Maybe the Packers as well.
That would have been all the Blue Bloods, right?
Yeah. Like this is the whole royalty of NFL history. So.
Yeah, it is.
It is definitely a lackluster game day in some sense.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing is the Patriots and the Packers.
Patriots and Packers. That'd be it.
Yeah.
But those are all on bye. Some of the teams really do need it. I'm glad the Niners are on bye, honestly, I have to say, because they have a lot of defensive players on the verge of coming back. And I'd rather face Justin Herbert in 2 weeks with everyone back rather than in 1 week with a lot of people still iffy. So I'm quite happy about the bye week. I don't know. Some other teams feel about it. Cowboys probably don't care too much. I think the Giants will like the fact that they have a bye.
Yeah, they need to regroup after that game. Yeah. I think they're going to come back and probably fire on all cylinders again.
Yeah,
look good for the rest of the season.
They'll have some great games with. They have the Thanksgiving clash set up at Dallas, don't they? That's going to be a big one.
Oh man, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Dallas always plays on Thanksgiving, and it's usually a divisional game. So.
Yep. And then you have the Eagles to contend with. So the Giants will need it. Giants will need it too.
Who's lucky enough to draw the Lions on Thanksgiving this year?
Oh, I looked at it. And it's gonna be a beatdown. I forget, but let me check really quickly.
Is that a week 11 or 12?
It should be 12 now, shouldn't it? Let me look it up real quick. Oh boy, it's Buffalo. Oh no.
Oh god.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
That is gonna be bad.
Yeah, Buffalo.
That's
Lions,
gonna be bad.
Giants, Cowboys, Patriots, Vikings. Oh man, we're gonna start that day off with a huge beatdown.
It's gonna be a massacre.
God, that might be a 50 to 7 type game right there.
Yeah, that is rough. Giants Dallas is gonna be a barn burner. That's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's following a beatdown of epic proportions. Most likely. We can't say just yet. Maybe the Lions will summon the Thanksgiving traditional spirit or whatever. We'll get there when we get there. Still a couple of weeks until then, so we have a few games to play. Anything can happen. But as for this week, that is all our picks. Let us know what you agree with and disagree with in the comments. And what do you think? Where did we make mistakes? Basically, give us that. And before we sign off, what's happening in the fantasy world?
Yeah, it's the trade deadline coming up. So I'm going to do an episode I call Smart Trades and Dumb Fades. We're going to talk about people who have been traded and people you should trade before your trade deadline in your league. And a few people that you would be dumb to start fading because of bad weeks or whatnot.
Okay. So you're going to tell us, like, who do we trade now if say we have a chance to make the playoffs?
Yes, exactly.
What's the kind of role that we have to fill?
Yes.
All right. Very similar as to real teams as well, once again.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe Christian McCaffrey's one of those guys, could possibly.
Yeah, you would be extremely smart to trade for Christian McCaffrey at this point.
In real life and in fantasy football.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me say. All right. I'm looking forward to that. If you're a fantasy player, especially with prospective chances of making the playoffs this year, do not miss that episode of the Hurry Up Offense coming up tomorrow after the release of this podcast, and it's completely free. It's professional advice, so go check that out. Subscribe to the channel as well to be notified about it, and once again, go to the community page to vote on your MVP favorite. Let us know what you think. I'm expecting it to be closer. I'm expecting it to be like almost a 50-50 split between Allen and Mahomes, but we'll see what the people have to say about that. So drop your vote there. Let us know what you think. And do you have anything to add for these games?
I think that's it for this week.
All right. We're going to see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard.